Divorced men of Reddit, what moment with your former wife made me think yup, I'm asking this girl to divorce me? When my buddies approached me to complain that she kept sitting on their laps, wiggling, and hoping for an erection. You have some good buddies. Man. I was a Lance Corporal bringing home scraps for a paycheck to an unemployed wife who one day brought home a brand new Lexus S350 because she got a good deal on it. Apparently I was supposed to pay the $800 mobile. I didn't think it was a good deal. When she falsely told our marriage counselor that I punched her. The next week, she denied saying it and accused our counselor of lying. He gave me a "you should leave this relationship" look. I took that look as permission from a professional that I definitely wasn't making the wrong decision. Got divorced and never looked back. I legitimately feared for my safety towards the end, not that she would hurt me, but that she would make a false accusation to the cops or a crazy friend. Edit. She let me know she was pregnant and wanted my permission to tell all her girlfriends during a girls' night out. Since I knew there was no possible way it was my child. She was also unknowingly admitting to having an affair. I canned math. And she can't. It was with her boss. Lawyered up the next day. And he ate her alive in court. I got primary custody of our child we already had. And child support. The sheriffs noticed that she had to vacate my home in 30 days. I never knew she could be that stupid. When a friend's wife said to me, "You know your wife is sleeping with my husband." That's a pickup line if I ever knew one. The morning I saw a picture of some dude's dick on her phone. She was classy enough to bring him to the divorce proceedings. Your Honor, I would like to present Exhibit D into evidence. When she staged a robbery of our house so she could pawn all of my shti for drug money. When my stepdaughter became a teenager, my ex ramped up the nutso. She had always been an impatient, angry screamer of a parent. But as my stepdaughter became a young woman, my ex just went crazy with envy or something. I know lots of moms have a hard time with teenage daughters. But their base level patience is so much better than my ex's was. Threats of cutting hair in middle of night while daughter slept. Pulling hair. Slapping face. Ridiculing in front of her friends. Swinging something that missed and put a hole in the wall. I was out. With the kids. My wife was around less and less. Had to be free to live her life. Go out with her friends. More often than not she would call me to pick our daughter up from daycare. After promising to pick her up and have some girl time. Just tell her I'm working late or not feeling well. She always had something better to do and the kids were old enough to know better. I went to pick our daughter up one day. When they called her name she came running over until she saw it wasn't mom. Again. Slumped her shoulders and slowly walked over to ask what's her excuse this time. That was the breaking point. Told her to get out. Even helped pay her security deposit to get her out. She made me watch Oprah and there was a quiz. Is your marriage okay or not type thing. In my head I saw 7 or 10 items that were not okay. She didn't see any. We had already been to counseling. I was working on a mother-daughter scrapbook as a Christmas present for her. Was going through her Google Photos account looking for pics of them together. Came across a selfie she took with some dude laying on her. Confirmed her second affair. Knew it was over the moment I saw it. That has FK'd me up pretty good. We flew across the country for her sister's wedding. She didn't say a word to me the entire time since we had parked at the airport. Once we landed at our destination, we walked to baggage claim, absolute silence preceding for several hours now. At the carousel, I picked up her bag when she took it out of my hand and calmly stated, "None of my family knows you're here." I told them I came alone. She walked out of the airport and left me there. Narcissistic personality disorder made for some really fun scenarios. During the last year and a half of our marriage she became extremely psychologically abusive. She was a narcissist. Controlled my every move. Would isolate me. Refused physical contact. I was just an extension to her life. Was not allowed to talk to any female. Was not allowed to hang out with any friends or she would ignore me for up to 5 days at a time. Double standards everywhere. Verbal abuse and the list can continue, but it hurts to think about. The last straw for me was when she threatened to kill me because I came home from work late even though she knew I would be home late. It was just a little too late for her and she also threatened to hit me the same day. This was the second time this happened and I talked with several people at work about it and they suggested that I run. I had texts of the threats on my phone and contacted a lawyer that same week. She agreed to sign since I told her I would take severe legal action if she didn't. Thankfully no children and it was a clean divorce and I'm happily divorced. I used to love to do chores for her because she loved being taken care of. When she stopped noticing, it started hurting. Then one day I made a bench for our entryway out of barnwood. Took about 40 hours of work. She walked in the house after work that day and sat her purse on it and proceeded to start the fight where she told me that she was mad she got married to me. She stormed out of the house grabbing her purse. Never noticed the bench was there. I knew then, but I think she already knew. When my 2-year-old was learning to talk he would consistently say another bloke's name. Apparently he was there the moment I left for work till when I got home. Single dad for 5 years with primary custody now. Finding her. On Christmas Eve. Still assisting a co-worker whom she claimed she was no longer in contact with, having been busted assisting him previously. Also, I cleared out of there like a blackjack dealer. Ho ho ho. When I, as the only earner in the house, was denied buying a new pair of work boots in December because she needed the money to buy vaccines for the puppies. She bred dogs as a hobby. I was a framing carpenter in Ohio. My current work boots were toast holes in both. No soles. I needed them. Her puppy vaccine story was bullshit. Her hobby was dogs. But she was a pro at popping pills. That's what she needed the money for. I was done with her by March. When, after being in Afghanistan for 8 months, May 2002 November 2002, she was missing. Had my car. Finding 2 random women with kids and pets living in the apartment I paid for. The electricity cut off. No money in my bank account. A pay advance authorized by my commander. And a friend telling me to go easy on her because she was 5 months pregnant with his kid. Oh. And he had had heart surgery to remove some kind of cysts from his heart just before I left. He was 23. Had a pacemaker. And basically half a heart. If I scared him, he could die. I'd say that was the moment. I found out she cheated on me. And upon me confronting her to discuss it, she manipulated me into thinking she was suicidal. Then she admitted the manipulation. Done. She may have once been a nice person. That's all gone now. Edit. Forgot to mention I found out because she had left her FB open with a conversation about her pregnancy scares to a friend. We hadn't had sex in a bit more than a month. My neighbor's wife screaming putana downstairs after she caught my bride and her husband f-king in front of the fireplace. When she moved out while I was camping with 2 of our sons and there was no discussion of whether her leaving was permanent or potentially temporary in her view. When I saw the text from her lover that said something to the effect of "I miss your cock in my ass." And I rubbed one out in the gym shower thinking of you. Bitch never sent me texts like that in 10 years of marriage. Still have the text saved somewhere in a divorce file. This was not the first affair. But it was the one that finished it for me. Not a wife but a fiance. Just called it off because we were house hunting and she kept wanting to look at houses that would accommodate an extra permanent guest, her estranged father whom she was wanting to reinitiate ties with. But wouldn't admit to it. Found out from a buddy that she was wanting me to lay out the money for the down payment and then was going to break it off herself and fight like hell to keep the house to herself. 2 years down the drain. But a lifetime of a fortunate near miss. When she said, "You didn't pray hard enough and that's why our son has cancer. That's why I'm sleeping with my prayer partner." I endured a physically, emotionally, and mentally abusive relationship for over 6 years with my first wife. 4 of which we were married. There were many instances that should have caused our marriage's demise. The proverbial straw that broke the camel's back, though, was 8 days after I had major oral surgery. Due to a freak medical occurrence, I had to have 28 teeth cut out and 2 holes drilled into my sinus cavities from top of the back of my gums. She and I were in a grocery store parking lot, and I asked her not to start an argument in the store because it's a small town and I was so tired of being those people. Her reaction was to backhand me in the mouth 6 times. Or at least I counted 6 times because I'm pretty damn sure I lost consciousness. I just remember waking up when we were pulling into our driveway while she's freaking out because my face is against the window and blood is coming from my mouth like a fountain. I left for work at 6 AM and forgot to unplug the toaster. When I arrived home at 6 PM, I was given the everything you've ever done to piss me off speech just for leaving the toaster plugged in. I asked her what she did all day that prevented her from unplugging it herself. Another I'm an arsehole speech. I said something to the effect of quit acting like your f-king mother. She threw the cat at me. A cat. She threw a f-king cat at me. Edit words and such. Edit 2 Scuba Steve went on to live with me after the official separation and divorce. Our daughter at 3 years old told us to stop yelling. I was at work and got a call from my grandparents that she had shot our dog, Zoe, that was laying on the bed with her. We were separated before that for other reasons. But that's when I ponied up a few grand and went to an attorney to file. I really miss her. The dog, I mean. When she asks me to take the kids on some errands. Has kept me celibate for months saying she is Azul now. And once I leave invites some guy over to tongue lash her for 45 minutes and then drop a load inside her in the bedroom without a condom. All on the day before Father's Day. Thanks Amy. Not divorced yet. This happened last week. Her life is in such shambles I am not even mad. I was on deployment and she yelled at me for interrupting her family's celebration when I called on Christmas. For the first one, I was working late and the daycare calls and asks if I'm picking up my kids. Left work to go get them. When I got home she was gone. Didn't hear anything from her for 2 weeks. For the second one. The third time I bailed the house out of foreclosure because she wouldn't pay the bills. Even though there was money in the accounts to cover it. I closed the account. Handed her cash for the mortgage, packed a bag my kids and left. When I found evidence of the last affair, as soon as I heard it, I knew that was the end. And there would never be anything else there. We had a trial separation and lived apart for a month. During this time I vented off some of my frustrations to one of my best friends. Come to find out said friend was f-king my wife behind my back. They both attempted to manipulate my emotions so that I wouldn't think anything suspicious. But goddamn my intuition always had my back. Always trust your gut folks. Even when your head isn't where it should be. When we went on a family vacation and I hoped she'd sleep the entire time so I could have fun with our son. When I found the letter between her and my friend about their affair and how she couldn't wait to be away from me so they could be together. Yup. I knew then. She required a much more varied selection of dicks than I was able to provide. So she went out and acquired them herself while I was stationed overseas in the Air Force. When she physically attacked me in front of our then 11-year-old son. I'd been pondering the idea for a while. That was the clincher. When I realized I didn't get along very well with her boyfriend. In marriage counseling. Me. I love you. X. I settled on you. When she informed me she was cheating on me and leaving me for that guy. K. That guy was engaged. Not to her. Oddly enough he did not break off his engagement. Edit. Bro. Thought this thread was dead when I commented. I'd like to add this was 6 months into our marriage. Together for 3 years. But that last 6 months she couldn't keep it together. My son was watching Netflix on her phone with me and her boyfriend text her. It was 12 at night and he said he missed her and couldn't wait to see her again. Typical. I know. I confronted her and she denied and said that her friend's daughter was texting my son. My son is 3. The daughter in question was 2 and barely speaking. Yay. When we had a much needed family trip planned to Mexico and due to a fight the week before, she told me she didn't want me to come on the trip and took my 2 daughters and her mother for a week. She was a stay-at-home mom, so I paid for the whole trip months before. As soon as I knew the plane left on time, I marched into a lawyer's office. I served her the papers the day after they got back home. When the cops showed up and arrested me while I was washing dishes, found out after being taken to the station that she had claimed that I had been beating on her and my 5-year-old son, was acquitted in court a month or so later. The situation was so messed up that the cops actually testified on my behalf. We were already not speaking. It was Thanksgiving. I knew she wasn't going to bother, but I made a turkey and whatever goes with turkey for my then 8-year-old daughter. I had the turkey out on the counter to rest after roasting. My beloved bride walked in, calmly threw the turkey in the kitchen trash can, and walked out. I had to take my kid to F-King Golden Corral for Thanksgiving. That was it. I was done. When she decided our dog was annoying her and sold him on Craigslist, which she then used the money to buy herself a non-refundable purse, instead of making any mention of her feelings so we could come up with a solution. Me and my ex were always having ups and downs. Cutting up my clothes when I was out with friends. Cutting my hair when I was asleep. Random violence and screaming fits. The usual. We did the normal things couples were supposed to do and it seemed to prolong the episode for a time. We bought a house, for example. Well, after we had the house, the next thing we needed was a cat. She loved it very much when it was a kitten, but as it grew up it became more independent. It's a cat duck, and she couldn't take this and became aggressive towards it. I remember walking in one day and she picked up the cat and threw it up in the air. It bounced off of the ceiling and then I threw her ass out of the house, bouncing her shitty of the curb. I still have the cat. The moment I realized that her excuses for her cheating with multiple other guys were all about blaming me and demolishing my spirit so she could continue doing so while I fully supported her financially, it was the click that I needed to lawyer up and gtfo. She had almost broken me, but I finally saw the only regret she had was getting caught. I don't know why I thought these would be funny. This tea is depressing as FCK. My best friend was an Air Force stationed in South Korea and got married right before he left. After about 6 months he flies her out to visit. First night she was there she would go outside to smoke more and more. She left her phone and he looked at it when someone texted her. She was texting 2 guys on base asking, "Do you want a food $sign and me when my husband goes to work?" He got out of Doge when she went home. Turns out she was cheating on him the whole time he was gone and was going to text him she wanted a divorce anyway. Edit. I realized I said Doge not Dodge. I can't change it because it's funny and comments wouldn't make sense lol. Edit. Forgot to add that she tried to spin it back on him and was pissed he looked at her phone and didn't trust her. Very sad. Such bitch. The day I found texts to another man saying things like "I miss you" and way mushier more painful stuff. I could say it was the day I found the S-ting with a doctor from her hospital, but no. I knew even before that. I'm a widower and visited the cemetery twice a year to visit my first wife's grave. First wife's brother asked me to send him a picture of the headstone as he wanted to post something on social media on the anniversary of her death to say something in her memory. I happily obliged and sent him the pic. My second wife gets home later that night and is pissed at me because she had to find out on social media that some other woman had her last name. I was dumbfounded as she knew I was married before. Knew that she had my last name, never mind that other woman had the name first, and yet somehow found a way to make yet another thing about her. Everything was always about her and apparently nothing was off limits to her narcissism. That was the moment I realized this is not someone I could be with every day.